I bolted upright in bed, cold sweat soaked my nightgown, my heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would explode, the searing pain of my neck being torn seemed to linger in every nerve, my hands trembling. I reached for my neck, the skin was smooth and intact, no wound, but the memory of being torn apart by zombies, the agony of being devoured alive, was still so real. I looked around at the wedding photo on the nightstand. This is our old apartment. The old apartment where Carter and I began our marriage. Not that hellish stairwell, not the zombie-infested ruins. The mattress beside me sank. Carter woke up almost at the same time, his face pale as a sheet. First he stared at his own hands in disbelief, then he turned to me abruptly. His voice was hoarse beyond belief, every word trembled.
Haven't we already
died? I finished the words he didn't dare to say. Died right outside our door, locked out by your good mother and brother's family, and fed to the zombies. Those images flooded my mind uncontrollably. The third day of the apocalypse, Martha came with Tyson, their family of 3, covered in blood, came to us for help. We gave in and opened the door. Little did we know it was like inviting wolves into the house. Our food was taken over, and we had to live like beggars, walking on eggshells around them. In the end, when everything ran out, Martha's cold words still echoed in my ears.
You're the eldest, you have to take responsibility. Our food can only support your brother's family, so you two go out and fend for yourselves.
The door slammed shut amid our desperate cries. No matter how hard we pounded, that door never opened again. Carter held me tightly underneath him till the very end, using his body to buy me a few more seconds. Carter, I turned my head, looked straight into his eyes, my voice colder and more determined than ever. If in this life you still choose your big family, we'll get a divorce right now. I, Serena, will never be killed by your family again. Carter's eyes instantly reddened, and he grabbed my hand.
No more. Never again.
He choked up. His voice was filled with pain and awakening.
In our past life, I was such an idiot. I thought blood ties could buy conscience. But when they pushed me out to die, did they ever think I was their own son and brother? This life...
He looked up, his eyes held a resolve and ruthlessness I'd never seen before.
I only have you, only this little family of ours. I'll make them pay 100 times over.
I squeezed his hand back, feeling the real, warm touch. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand. The clear date on the screen made me catch my breath. The 20th of October 2035, 7:15 a.m. Exactly 8 days until the apocalypse on October 28. 8 days. I'll use these 8 days to build a fortress strong enough for us to survive, and I'll watch those so-called family members walk step by step into the grave they dug for themselves. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. Carter, our savings, plus the limits on all our credit cards and online loans, how much can we scrape together?
About $100,000.
He did the math quickly. Not enough. Not nearly enough. We need to stock at least 2 years' worth of supplies for 4 people. We have to fortify the safe room. We need weapons, medicine, and energy. We don't have enough money. Then we'll find a way.
4 people?
Right, and my mom and dad. I picked up my phone. My fingers trembled with excitement and urgency. I have to bring them here right away. In the past life, I didn't even get to see them one last time. The call went through. The moment I heard my mom's familiar voice, tears nearly spilled from my eyes. I choked back my sobs. In a tone that left no room for argument, I told them to pack immediately and take the earliest bullet train today to come here.
Serena, what's really going on? My dad's anxious voice came through.
Mom, Dad, I can't explain now. But please trust me just this once. Come as fast as you can.
This world is about to change.
I hung up, booked the tickets. I felt a wave of weakness, a mix of fear and relief. Thank goodness, it's not too late. Our old apartment is no longer safe. I quickly sorted out my thoughts. For mates, your mom and them know about this place. After the apocalypse, this place will definitely be a target. We'll go to my parents' old house in the suburbs. The one in Fairview Gardens. The top floor unit with a terrace. It's remote, low occupancy, and your mom and them don't know about it. Carter didn't hesitate.
I'll quit my job right now.
Me too. We have no time to hesitate. No time for sentiment either. Every second is precious now. In the past life, we died from kindness and naivety. In this life, we fight to survive. Live for revenge. Apocalypse countdown starts now. I submitted my resignation letter online, blocked my supervisor's number. Carter and I didn't waste a second. Career prospects mean nothing when survival is at stake. Then we drove to the bank, withdrew all our fixed deposits, and applied for the maximum credit loan. Then came all the online lending platforms, and we borrowed like crazy, every penny we could. The fear of massive debt was nothing compared to the fear of zombies and starvation. In the afternoon, we showed up at Fairview Gardens. Told them we were moving in and needed a full renovation. We got the keys from the property manager without a hitch. We also slipped cash gifts to the neighbors upstairs and downstairs, saying we'd keep the noise down during renovations. This excuse would become the perfect cover for the massive flow of supplies in and out in the future. The first wave of purchasing started online. Cooking oil, rice, flour, canned food, compressed biscuits, vacuum-packed meat, all the non-perishables I calculated by the box and by the ton. The delivery address was set to here. The recipient was uniformly listed as the renovation purchasing department. At the same time, I contacted several bottled water companies and ordered enough purified water to fill a small room. In the evening, my parents arrived with their luggage, looking travel-worn and utterly confused. When they heard about our past life zombie outbreak, my mother-in-law's family showing up, and us being kicked out, the whole miserable story, my mom nearly fainted. My dad, on the other hand, was furious and wanted to confront my in-laws immediately. "Dad, what's the point of going now?" I grabbed him and held him back.
Beat them up.
Then we get arrested, and 8 days later we're dead in a holding cell. My dad froze. He saw the unwavering determination in my eyes, then Carter's heavy, ashamed look. Finally, he slumped down. Mom dried her tears and grabbed my hand.
Serena, just tell us what to do.
In that moment, we were all in it together. We quickly divided the tasks. My dad, with his experience as an old construction worker, took charge of reinforcing and fortifying the house. My mother, being meticulous, was in charge of buying daily necessities, medicine, and seeds. Carter and I took on the most dangerous and most important job, getting supplies and weapons. In the apocalypse, the scariest thing is people. 6 days until the apocalypse. We were frantically stockpiling supplies. We were burning through cash like crazy. My dad drove a rented pickup truck and brought back the first load of rebar and cement, blast-proof steel plates, and thick soundproofing insulation. His plan was bold but careful. He would connect our unit, 3601, to the next one we just rented, 3602. We'd install a hidden passage inside, while keeping up the appearance of 2 separate units. That was our escape route. Carter and I went to every big box store in town, pushing shopping carts piled high. Without a word, we cleared the shelves of canned goods, seasonings, and instant foods. At checkout, the cashier gave us a weird look, but we just said it was for a big company team-building event, and that was that. Every time we hauled supplies upstairs, we made sure to go when few people were around, and kept complaining to the neighbors about what a pain renovations are. Mom was incredibly thorough. Her list included not just cases of toilet paper, sanitary pads, toothpaste, and soap, but also medicines for common ailments, and even dental tools and surgical suture kits. She also hit every gardening center, buying tons of vegetable seeds and potting soil. The rooftop terrace was going to be our future green farm. In just 3 days, the once empty apartment was stuffed to the brim. Food, water, medicine, tools all sorted by category, neat and organized. My dad worked non-stop. The non-load-bearing wall between the 2 units was cleverly opened up, with a hidden door installed. All windows got sliding steel plates on the inside. In the afternoon, I went back to the old apartment alone. In hidden corners of the living room, kitchen, and master bedroom, I installed 3 mini cameras, connected to an app so I could check in real time. The fridge was stuffed with perishable food, fresh vegetables, fruits, milk, and meat. My mother-in-law's family always just wanted Carter and me to spend money. They'd never buy anything extra, and the food I left for them wouldn't last more than a few days. "Eat up," I said to the empty room. "This is the last decent meal you'll ever have." On my way back from the last big supply run, I was stopped by a gossipy neighbor in the neighborhood.
Oh, Serena. Are you opening a supermarket or what? How many trips have you made?
A few other residents were watching me. I forced a helpless, hurt smile. "Mrs. Miller, don't even get me started. My mother-in-law and my brother-in-law's family just insisted on coming over. So now there are several more people living here. Gotta stock up now, right? You know, my brother-in-law's family can really eat." I sighed artfully, successfully diverting the neighbor's sympathetic and knowing gaze toward those infamous relatives. This lie quickly spread through the neighborhood. The way people looked at us hauling supplies turned from curiosity to sympathy, and even a bit of smug satisfaction, as if they could already see the tragic scene of us being bled dry by those leeching relatives. That was exactly what I wanted. Like I'd really leave all this for them. Carter and I had already planned that, late at night, we'd secretly move the supplies to the suburban house. Now they might just be curious, but when the apocalypse comes, this kind of attention will bring unforeseen disaster. In the apocalypse, people's hearts are the scariest thing. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but look forward to seeing my mother-in-law and sister-in-law's family facing the neighbor's wrath. What a scene that will be in the future. Day 4, before the apocalypse, our supply run entered its final and craziest stage. Carter scored a few compound bows through his connections, a ton of arrows, and some bladed weapons. My dad got a small gasoline generator, solar panel kits, and a few big drums of precious fuel. My mom even got live chickens and rabbits, and kept them in cages on the balcony. My dad showed off the last upgrades. The stair door to the roof was welded shut. The fire escape had extra door jammers installed, and inside the main entrance, using bricks and cement, they built a low wall simple but sturdy. The fortress was ready, We took stock of all the supplies. Food could last 4 people over 2 years if we rationed.
Water was plentiful with rainwater collection backup, and medicines were all set.
We had canned goods, energy was diversified, and defenses were solid. Seeing the room stacked with supplies, I finally felt a little relief. I checked the monitors every day to watch the old apartment. On the afternoon of October 23rd. Sure enough, Martha showed up with Tyson and his family. They banged on the door for ages, but nobody answered. Finally, Tyson used some tools, no idea where he got them, and picked the lock. This had happened in our past life too, but back then Carter and I were home, and we didn't let them in. On the screen, Martha started yelling the moment she stepped in.
Hey, Carter! Where the hell are you guys?
Lily was holding Toby, looking disgusted at the messy living room.
The nerve.
Tyson kicked the trash can over.
Mom, didn't you say Carter said we could stay?
How was I supposed to know they'd actually have the guts?
Martha's voice faded, but then she got cocky again.
It's fine, they're not here anyway. This house is ours now. Grandma's little grandson gets the big room.
Seeing this, I shut off the monitor, stone-faced. Go ahead, keep at it. When the apocalypse hits, we'll see how long you can stay smug. Soon it was the day of the apocalypse. In our past life, the 28th of October 2035, 6:35 p.m., the day the apocalypse struck, my mother-in-law called, said they'd come stay with us in a couple of days, told me to get things ready. Because of that, Carter and I had an argument, so neither of us made it out on time. Later, on the 3rd day of the apocalypse, my mother-in-law and brother-in-law, their family of 3 came to our complex. Tyson was holding an axe from who knows where, covered in blood. I couldn't bear it, so I opened the door and let them in. Never thought I'd be letting a wolf into the house. This time, I want to see, without us, how well they'll manage. Right now, our whole family is gathered at the telescope, watching the city outside still running normally. My mom's worried whether the apocalypse will actually come. Suddenly, a series of violent crashes came from the main road, followed by screeching brakes and screams. Through the high-powered telescope, I saw a man acting erratically pounce on a pedestrian. Blood splattered a blinding red. Terrified people fled like headless flies. Cars crashed out of control. Black smoke rose everywhere. Crying and cursing, even from this distance, pierced through the glass into our ears. It's really here. My mom covered her mouth, her body trembling slightly. My dad held her shoulders tightly, his face ashen. Carter took my cold hand. On TV, an emergency news anchor's voice came on, trying to sound calm but unable to hide the tremor, urging citizens to go home immediately, lock doors and windows, and wait for government instructions. The TV screen quickly turned to static. The internet started lagging. On social media and group chats, it was flooded with bloody videos and desperate pleas for help. Just then, Carter's phone rang. The name flashing on the screen was Mom, and he stared at it, his eyes complex, with lingering pain and even colder hatred. He pressed speakerphone. My mother-in-law's terrified scream ripped through the air.
Carter, where are you guys? Get back here. The streets are full of lunatics. There's no food left in the house. Go buy rice and flour, right now, a lot.
Even as the apocalypse descends, he still only takes from us. Carter was silent for a few seconds. His voice was eerily calm.
Mom, I'm outside and can't get home. There are monsters out here eating people. And you want me to go to the supermarket now?
I don't care if you're the eldest. You've got to take responsibility. You want to starve your own mom and nephew.
My mother-in-law was screaming, totally unreasonable. Carter gave me one last look. He spoke into the phone, enunciating every word.
Mom, in our past life, you said the exact same thing. You're the eldest. Gotta take responsibility. Then you locked me and Serena out.
Dead silence on the other end. Then, a few seconds later, even more frantic cursing. Carter hung up. He took out the SIM card, snapped it in two and tossed it in the trash. I held Carter's hand tight. He pulled me into his arms. He buried his face in my neck for a while, and acted like nothing was wrong. But his eyes were a bit red. I knew he was hurting more than I was. In our past life, his own mother and younger brother brutally kicked him out of the house, and he was eaten alive by zombies. Now my mother-in-law has no right to blame Carter. These days, the occasional screams and gunshots in the neighborhood remind everyone this isn't a drill. My focus was on the surveillance of our old apartment. The first few days, my mother-in-law's family was still wasting the leftover food. Soon the fridge was empty, the pantry was stripped bare. Fighting became their daily routine. My mother-in-law complained her son and daughter-in-law ate too much. My sister-in-law accused my mother-in-law of being useless. My brother-in-law was like a tyrant, barking orders at his mother and wife. Their spoiled son, not getting snacks or toys, cried and screamed all day. My mother-in-law grew more hunched each day. My sister-in-law's eyes were venomous. My brother-in-law was like a caged beast, pacing around the room, his eyes occasionally sweeping over his wife and child, with a chilling expression. I know the day the food in the old apartment runs out is when they completely collapse. And the other starving survivors in the compound will eventually set their sights on that apartment that supposedly has supplies. I don't need to do it myself. I just need to wait patiently and watch them be consumed by their own greed and stupidity. On the surveillance feed, the last bit of rice in the old apartment was cooked into a watery broth. My mother-in-law watches her grandson wolf it down, while she can only lick the rim of the bowl. My sister-in-law snatches the half bowl of porridge from my mother-in-law, cursing, "Save it for the kid, you old hag." Just then, a heavy banging on the door sounds. Outside are several men with fierce looks. Leading them is the fitness coach from the next building. Now he's carrying a blood-stained fire axe. "Open up. We know you guys stocked up before. Hurry up and share it with everyone." His voice was harsh and left no room for argument. My brother-in-law turned pale with fear. Trembling, he said through the peephole, "We really don't have any." In response came even more violent banging. The lock is bending. It's about to be broken through. My brother-in-law breaks down and actually opens the door. Crying, he begs, "Bosses, there's really no food left. They've eaten it all. If you want to find some, go to the owner of this apartment." My brother and his wife definitely have a lot stashed away. To redirect their anger, he didn't hesitate to shift the blame to us. That group rushed in and ransacked the place. Naturally, they found nothing. The leader was furious. He slammed the axe handle into my brother-in-law's shoulder, causing him to scream in pain. In the end, they took the pitiful bit of rice and a few things of value and left cursing. The old apartment fell into dead silence. Then more intense accusations and crying broke out. Meanwhile, Building 7, where we are, also started to get restless. Late at night, Carter used a drone's infrared camera and caught a few figures trying to jimmy open a first-floor window. Carter and I exchanged a glance. I shook my head slightly. We're not saviors, but things went sideways. After they succeeded, they crept toward our building. They spotted signs we'd been scavenging. We'd cleaned up most, but some traces stayed. Mom's face turned pale. I knew this was the test. When the first guy started jimmying the downstairs door, Carter turned to me.
"We can't let them in. Once they get a taste, they'll bring a whole crew next time."
I nodded, then pointed at the balcony. "There's a drone connected to a Bluetooth speaker and a small bag of bloody animal guts in a Ziploc. Lure them to Building 2, I whispered. That's where the zombies are thickest." For the first time, to stay alive, we deliberately led people to their deaths. After all that, nobody in the fortress said a word. Just the sound of heavy breathing. The old apartment had turned into a living hell. On the monitor, my brother-in-law's eyes grew more unsettling. He'd stare at his wife and son for ages. He looked at them like they were food. My sister-in-law seemed to sense it too. She clutched her son tight and cowered in the corner, terrified. My mother-in-law became the family's punching bag. One day, after yet another blowout, my brother-in-law suddenly snapped. He shoved his frail mother toward the door.
"Mom, there's no food left in the house. Toby is starving. You're his grandma. Can't you go out and look for some?"
His voice was pure madness.
My mother-in-law collapsed to the floor, staring in shock at the son she'd spoiled since childhood. My sister-in-law turned away without a word. The little grandson just stared blankly and wailed,
"Grandma, I'm hungry."
The light in my mother-in-law's eyes slowly
Faded away. She stopped crying and grumbling. Trembling, she got up and opened the door. The hallway was empty. But downstairs came faint, chilling, dragging sounds and growls. My mother-in-law turned back for one final look at the closed door. No sound came from behind that door. She shuffled toward the stairs. Her figure vanished from the monitor. But soon, hurried footsteps approached. My mother-in-law dashed ahead, screaming for help, with a handful of zombies on her tail. Tyson, Lily, and Toby were inside, bracing the door. No matter how much my mother-in-law screamed, they never opened the door. He quickly ran upstairs, but in his panic, he tripped and fell. The zombies behind him lunged. He reached out desperately, calling for help. But then he saw a flash of our past life, the scene where he pushed Carter and me out the door. Screams pierced his ears. His face went blank. His hands fell limp. Tears rolled down his face. He watched as my mother-in-law, betrayed by the younger son's family she had always favored, was pushed into a death trap. I felt they deserved it. It was satisfying. A few days later, zombies began roaming the hallways. The once safe building was no longer safe. Everyone tiptoed around, more cautious than ever. Inside the old apartment, Luke trembled at the sound of zombie growls. Toby, terrified, clung to his mother. They clamped their hands over their mouths, too scared to breathe. Carter and I watched them struggle to survive. A few days later, I checked the surveillance. The living room was empty. Then I heard arguing coming from the bedroom. Then piercing screams erupted from the bedroom. Carter and I exchanged a glance. We both felt a mix of pity and satisfaction. In the apocalypse, hearts are unpredictable. The screams and the stench of blood soon drew the zombies outside. A wave of zombies slammed against the door. The heavy door finally gave in. The zombies followed the blood trail and swarmed in. Hearing the cries for help through the monitor and the panicked screams of children, I couldn't watch anymore. So I closed the app. When my mom in the fortress found out, she wept silently, not for that wicked in-law, but for how far humanity had fallen. Carter held me tight. His body trembled. The thrill of revenge never came. Instead, I felt only exhaustion and a deep chill. At the same time, the number of survivors in the neighborhood plummeted, and the zombies roaming around had grown to over 30, mostly concentrated around Building 3 and Building 5 because those two buildings had the most residents and the most people alive. Our Building 7 was the most remote. Right now, only 5 or 6 zombies were wandering downstairs. At 7 p.m., the sky was completely dark, so Carter and I stepped onto the balcony and launched a drone with a small Bluetooth speaker hanging from its belly, which we'd just rigged up that afternoon.
Crank it up to max. What should we play?
Carter asked. Heavy metal, I thought for a moment, the louder, the better. The music blared. The drone flew out from the balcony toward the neighborhood entrance, as deafening guitar riffs and drum beats burst through the night sky. And it worked instantly. Every zombie, not just in the neighborhood, but on the streets too, started moving toward the sound. They've got no brains. They're only drawn to sound and light. The drone circled in the air for 10 minutes, then slowly flew toward a main road outside the neighborhood, with the zombie horde following.
It worked.
Carter said, pumped. But just then, something went wrong. An arrow shot out of the darkness, piercing the drone's propeller precisely. The drone lost its balance. It wobbled and fell to the ground. It crashed outside the community wall. My expression shifted. I immediately launched another drone. I turned on night vision. In the feed, a man in a black tracksuit was climbing out of a window in Building 5. He was holding a compound bow. He landed nimbly. He quickly ran to the crashed drone. He picked up the speaker. He turned off the music at Fairview Gardens. Then he looked up towards Building 7. To be precise, he was looking at our apartment, 3-601. Under night vision, I could clearly see his face. He mouthed something to the camera. He was saying cooperate or hostile. That man was Max. This was sent over by his drone. The note had his name on it. Coming. It also came with his resume. Former reconnaissance soldier. Lives alone in Building 5, Room 902. Has weapons and some supplies, willing to cooperate.
Can't trust him. My dad was the first to object. Who knows if he's just trying to fish for info? He wants to steal our supplies.
But he already knows our location.
Carter was worried.
If he wanted to harm us, he could have lured zombies over. Or teamed up with others to attack.
I stared at the note. Thoughtful. Finally, I made a decision. We can cooperate. But there are conditions. First, exchange supply lists. To confirm each other's value as partners. Second, exchange contact info. But only via walkie-talkies. Third, define activity zones. No approaching within 100 yards of each other's homes without permission. Carter sent the conditions over by drone. Half an hour later, the reply came, agreed. Also, a heads up, there are more than just us two groups alive in the community. Building 3 has a family of 5. Building 6 has 2 young couples. And the property security guard Gary and his nephew. They're discussing banding together. Going door to door to requisition supplies. My dad snorted.
Requisition is just robbery. Under the banner of, for, the community, they're really bandits.
Gary. I remembered the always friendly security guard. He's involved too. My heart sank. Bye. Max also said they plan to search starting from Building 1, and figure they'll get to Building 7 in 3 days. He suggested we prepare in advance. Either hide or fight. Where can we hide? The combined space of the 2 apartments is large, but if they're determined to search, we'll be found sooner or later. So fight. We have 4 adults, but except for Max, they're all untrained civilians. The other side has at least 10 people, and they might have weapons too. I asked Max how he wanted to work together. The drone took off again, and brought back a detailed plan. Max's plan was simple: use sound or the smell of blood to lure zombies to their place. If the zombies take care of them, that's best. If not, it'll drain their energy and ammo. When they're exhausted, we move in and finish them off.
That's too cruel.
My mom's face turned pale. They tried to rob us first. I calmly analyzed, if we don't act. Once they team up, we're done. My dad put out his cigarette and tried to persuade my mom.
I know you're kind-hearted, but this is the apocalypse. It's kill or be killed. Serena is right. We can't just wait to die.
In the end, my mom reluctantly nodded. Deal done. Max would take charge of reconnaissance and planning, and my family would handle execution. For now, we each fend for our own supplies, but if one side had an urgent need, the other could trade for equivalent goods. First target, Gary, the property guard. According to Max's intel, Gary and his nephew live in the property office in Building 2. There's a surveillance room there, which can see the feeds from all the cameras in the compound. Though most cameras are already broken, a few still work. We have to take out that eye first. At 2 in the morning, Carter and I went out to the balcony and launched the drone with the small speaker. This time, no music. Instead, we played a pre-recorded baby's cry. The volume wasn't loud, but in the dead of night, it was crystal clear. Zombies are super sensitive to sound, especially high-frequency noises. Sure enough, a few minutes later, the zombies wandering around the neighborhood started gathering toward the sound. The drone slowly flew toward Building 2 and hovered near the property office windows, while Max was also on the move. Using another drone, he dropped several blood bags at the base of Building 2. They'd made them that afternoon with expired pig blood. The smell was strong. The zombies went completely crazy. They crowded around Building 2, roaring and pounding on the entrance door. Gary and his nephew were woken up and looked down from the window, scared out of their minds. They tried to block the door, but it was too late. The entrance door was old and worn, and under the impact of a dozen zombies, it quickly warped. The screech of the door hinges breaking came through, followed by the roar of zombies flooding into the hallway. Screams pierced the night. Over the walkie-talkie, Max calmly reported, "Target eliminated."
The security room is empty now.
After dawn, the zombies would lose their target and gradually disperse. Then he could head to Building 2 and grab the hard drive from the security room and everything useful. At 4 in the morning, everything was quiet. My family sat in the dark living room. No one spoke. They'd just indirectly killed 2 people. Sure, they were enemies, and it was self-defense, but it still felt terrible. "Have I become a bad person?" my mom asked softly. "Mom, in the apocalypse, there's no good or bad people." I took my mother's hand. "There's only the living and the dead. We just want to survive." The next few days were the calm before the storm. The survivors in our neighborhood seemed to sense the danger. They didn't dare do anything rash. Occasionally, a drone flew by, but they kept their distance, like they were testing each other. My family and Max kept in close touch. Max is a very reliable partner. He used drones to scout the area during the day. At night, he watched zombie movements with infrared binoculars. He'd compile the intel every day and send it via drone. Every bit of intel came stained with blood. We couldn't let our guard down. The vegetables on the terrace were growing well. They provided a precious source of vitamins. We started learning to use limited materials. We used them to craft more tools. We even tried to purify rainwater with simple distillation. Survival skills were maxed out by daily crises. Before we knew it, winter quietly arrived. The first snow fell, covering the filth and debris on the streets. The city was snowed in. The temperature plummeted below zero. Whiteness covered the bloodshed, but it brought a new survival crisis. The extreme cold killed our solar panel efficiency. We didn't dare use the diesel generator lightly. We could only keep the indoors just above freezing. We put on every thick layer we had. We confined ourselves to the warmest master bedroom. The makeshift insulation of foam board and quilts helped a little, but we were all freezing, our lips turning purple. My mom's carefully tended terrace garden lost most seedlings to the cold snap. Only a few cold hardy leafy greens lingered in the plastic greenhouse. Even worse, my mom fell ill. The constant cold and malnutrition gave her a severe cold, which then triggered bronchitis. She was coughing her lungs out. Her cheeks were burning red with fever. The antibiotics we had didn't help much. She needed stronger medicine, maybe even some oxygen. Just as we were at our wits' end, Max, who'd been keeping in limited touch via drone, sent another message. Underneath Max's drone hung a small bag. Inside were several boxes of high-grade antibiotics and a small bottle of cough syrup. There was also a note. "In exchange, I need salt and vitamin tablets." The exchange was successful. It alleviated my mom's condition. Max also shared what he observed around them with his binoculars. Zombies moved significantly slower in the low temperatures, but they weren't frozen. Further away, there were traces of unknown vehicle activity. West of the city, there seemed to be ongoing firelight and faint sounds of explosions. The situation was unclear. The bitter winter seemed to freeze time and temporarily froze the killing. But we all knew beneath this calm lay deeper despair. The ice and snow began to melt, finally bringing a hint of warmth, but also new dangers. That day, I was upstairs watering the vegetables, when I suddenly heard the honking of vehicle horns. I quickly crouched down and quietly observed my surroundings. Looking down from the rooftop, I saw a group of people arriving below in jeeps, wearing military uniforms. They were outside shouting through a megaphone, telling everyone they were from the military and urging survivors to come downstairs quickly, saying they would take everyone to a safe zone. I hurried back inside. When Mom and Dad heard the good news, their faces lit up with surprise. They were about to pull open the curtains when I dashed over and stopped them. Pointing at the group below, I looked at Mom and Dad seriously. They couldn't be from the military. I looked through the binoculars at about a dozen guys in army uniforms holding guns, but their stance is weird and not like real soldiers at all. I pass the binoculars to Mom and Dad, and once they see it, they can't help feeling scared. Carter and I share a look, knowing these guys are trouble. I just hope the other survivors in the neighborhood aren't that careless. We pull the curtain aside just a crack to watch, and after a while, thinking no one would come down, I still see a few people heading down with backpacks. I can't help feeling sad, as maybe they know those guys aren't from the government, but ever since the outbreak, their homes have been out of food for ages, so stuck between a rock and a hard place. They have no choice but to take a gamble. There are also a few elderly folks with young kids slowly walking out of the building. And maybe these old folks really think they're from the government and that this is their only hope. I watch those phonies snatch everyone's supplies roughly and force the women and able-bodied men onto the truck, leaving the elderly and kids behind. The crowd instantly gets restless as the desperate people surround the phonies, blocking their way, but after a single gunshot rings out, a figure collapses into a pool of blood. Seeing the guns, the crowd goes silent, and seeing that no one dares to resist, they pull another bag from the truck, soon setting up a big pot and starting to cook right there on the ground. One of them drags a few women off the truck and starts groping them, his hands all over them, and seeing this, I can't help feeling a deep sadness. I put down the binoculars, unable to watch anymore. By the afternoon, watching them dispose of the bodies and point at the buildings while talking, I can't help feeling uneasy. And sure enough, they start searching the buildings. The Marauders tore through the floors fast. In less than a week, they made it to our building. They were damn efficient, breaking doors, searching, and looting. If anyone resisted, they shot. We heard screams and scuffles downstairs, getting closer. My heart was in my throat. Through the drone's audio, I heard the tattooed man in charge cursing. What a crappy complex. This hall's not enough. What a waste of energy. Some in the complex started joining them. One middle-aged man, all hunched over, was sucking up to the burly tattooed man. The middle-aged man told them this was a new complex, with a low occupancy rate. The floors above were all unoccupied. There was a family supposed to move in, but they never showed, so their place was totally empty. He said they should just search the buildings ahead. The tattooed man spat on the ground and kicked him, cursing him for not speaking up sooner. The middle-aged man didn't dare to get up, still lying on the ground, and trembling. He said he'd told Vince. Vince said no one gets spared. Vince stepped forward when called, said he was just being careful, in case they missed something. He didn't know if the guy was telling the truth, so he didn't dare tell the tattooed man. Vince stared at the middle-aged man on the ground. He told everyone to search at their own pace from now on. The middle-aged man glanced upstairs, and asked the tattooed man if they should still search here. The tattooed man snorted, "Screw searching, there's nothing at all." Seeing it was getting late, the group returned to their camp. Carter and I were soaked through. We both felt relieved after barely making it out, but we didn't let our guard down. The next day, they headed straight for another building. It seemed they'd given up on ours. After all, our building had only a dozen households, scattered all over, and the middle-aged man was the property manager here. Carter carefully launched the drone, watching them head to the other buildings. The property staff pointed at that building. Thanks to the property manager, who knew the complex like the back of his hand, their search speed increased. I was worried sick for the people in that building. Through the drone, I heard occasional sounds of fighting. Looks like they succeeded again. I didn't know what I could do. Carter, Mom, Dad, and I gathered together, discussing how to respond. Even if they didn't come to our building, we couldn't let them stay here any longer. The best way was to drive them away. The next day, for some crazy reason, they came back to our building. The leading tattooed man stroked his beard. He kept feeling someone was in this building. The others had to follow orders and check upward. No one on 33, no one on 34, until they headed to the fire escape on the 35th floor. Footsteps stopped at the fire escape door on the 34th floor. There we had set up barricades, a welded iron gate and piles of clutter. The guy they called boss barked at them to break it open. There might be good stuff up there. Seeing their actions, our hearts were in our throats. We never thought this day would come. I quickly told Carter to use the drone to spot zombies. They had already cleared the area near the neighborhood. Not a single zombie. Looking at the empty streets, I told Carter to fly the drone farther this time. I was on my period, so Mom and I quickly thawed the chicken we had prepared earlier and hung them together. I used the drone to fly low around, luring zombies. At that moment, Max's drone also appeared behind us. A small speaker under its belly started blasting a sharp, piercing siren. At the same time, the drone dropped a few small blood bags. The strong smell of blood finally lured a group of zombies. The two drones flew one after the other toward the zombies. The lured zombies slowly shuffled toward the neighborhood. The men left below to keep watch approached a woman. The woman saw the zombies closing in behind them. My heart tightened. I was afraid the woman would alert those men by screaming, but I couldn't bear to see her torn apart. But unexpectedly, the woman's eyes held a smile of relief. The man on top of her didn't have time to react before a zombie sank its teeth into his throat. The other man pushed the woman beside him toward the zombie and quickly ran upstairs. The woman grabbed the man's arm tightly and took out a hidden shard. She slashed the man who was holding her. She then smeared the blood on him. As she shouted, "If we die together." The blood drove the zombies to lunge at him. They bit his arm. The man struggled to break free from the zombies and stumbled upstairs, clutching his wound. I watched this scene through the drone, hoping he would hold on long enough and after getting infected, Take those bastards down with him. The men with axes downstairs had already reached the 35th floor. They swung their axes, and the locked doors were smashed open immediately. Then they headed straight for the 36th floor. Inside, Dad was holding a tactical shovel. Carter held a chainsaw, staring at the drone footage. I also held an iron rod, ready for action. Mom was in the kitchen boiling motor oil. It would stick to skin. Even if they don't die, it'll peel their skin off. The infected man had already climbed to the 26th floor. His face was pale. He pulled his shirt back down, covering the wound on his hand. The few people in the fire escape were still banging hard on the brick wall. Fortunately, the brick wall, dried for months, was as solid as a fortress. Those people were still struggling to break through the wall. Below, the infected man, on shaky legs, staggered toward them. The tattooed man watched the infected man approach. His expression was hostile. The infected man pointed behind him, trying to say something, but his body suddenly began to convulse. It was extremely strange. The others immediately noticed the wound on his hand. Fear showed on their faces. Soon, the snarling of zombies came from behind. The tattooed man swung his knife, putting the infected man down. Looking at the stunned group, he cursed, "What are you waiting for? Grab your weapons." The tattooed man killed zombie after zombie that tried to come up. He shouted at the man in red with the bag to open the door, and the man in red was about to open it with a tool. We watched their every move intently. Our hearts were in our throats. If they actually broke in, our family would surely be in grave danger. Fortunately, the zombies were faster. The zombies behind grabbed the exhausted tattooed man's wrist and bit down hard. His so-called brothers were already terrified. Some tried to run downstairs, but the zombies knew no fear and swarmed up tirelessly. A chain reaction erupted instantly. Screams of terror and desperate curses echoed and collided in the stairwell. From the drone came shrill, inhuman screams. None of those people survived. After days of anxiety, we finally relaxed. After the tragedy on the 35th floor, aside from us and Max, there seemed to be no other survivors. The zombies, lacking fresh prey and food, gradually dispersed from Fairview Gardens. The second New Year after the apocalypse, we stir-fried a large plate of cured meat, a plate of greens, and some stir-fried bean sprouts. My mom also made a filling with greens and cured meat and wrapped dumplings. We raised our glasses to celebrate the new year and celebrate that we were still alive. While we were eating, a strong light signal suddenly came from Max outside. We heard a radio broadcast and confirmed it was a military frequency. They were broadcasting safe zone coordinates and contact information. It's in the mountains about 120 miles to the east. This news was like a thunderbolt, shattering our stagnant life. The nation really did set up a secure stronghold in the safe zone. Hope, for the first time, was so tangible before us. But with it came intense debate and deep anxiety. My dad was firmly against leaving.
It's 120 miles. And it's the apocalypse now. What's out there? Zombie hordes, marauders, broken roads, broken vehicles. How are we supposed to travel? We put so much effort into building this fortress. Going out is suicide.
Carter was leaning towards taking the risk. He thought staying here was just waiting for the food to run out, for the equipment to break down, and if a disease breaks out, we'd have no outside help. Since the nation could set up a safe zone, there might be support points along the way. This is the only chance. My mom looked at me with a complicated expression and said she would follow my decision. All the pressure fell on my shoulders. I came back after rebirth, built this fortress with foreknowledge, and helped my family survive the most chaotic times. But in my past life, I died too soon. What happens next, I don't know either. In the end, I made the decision, we go. My dad was silent for a long time. Finally, he sighed. He started checking his gear in silence. Mom, however, started frantically packing medicine and concentrated food rations. Carter hugged me tight. He began planning vehicle modifications and weapon distribution. Through the drone, we reached a final agreement with Max. He would ride in the same car with us. He would provide a modified off-road vehicle, serve as the primary driver and combat escort, and provide concentrated food rations sufficient for at least a month, a large amount of medicine, and extra fuel. All decisions during the trip must be negotiated between both sides. Spoils would be distributed according to contribution. Over the next few days, we entered a different state of preparation. We screened the supplies that had to be taken, high-calorie food, medicine, weapons, tools, a small amount of precious seeds, and secretly sealed most of the bulky food and water in the most hidden compartment of the fortress. In case of failure, there might still be a way back. The road out of the city was tougher than expected. The main road was completely blocked by wrecked cars, fallen billboards, and debris. We had to frequently detour onto side roads. Max was an amazing driver, always spotting roadblocks early and finding gaps. Carter and I guarded the flanks and rear, while my parents kept a close eye on the road ahead. Soon, at a fork, we hit a man-made roadblock. Max immediately stopped the car. He signaled us to be quiet. He observed for a long time with binoculars. There's movement behind the roadblock. People, more than one, might be an ambush. We tried to quietly reverse and go around, but they had obviously spotted us. A person with a crude weapon stood up from behind the roadblock, waving their arms. Couldn't tell if it was a warning or a plea for help. We stopped the car at a safe distance. Max used a megaphone to call out, stating we were just passing through, with no intention of conflict, and willing to trade a little food for safe passage. The other side was silent for a moment. A sallow, thin middle-aged man slowly walked over from behind the roadblock. His eyes were filled with pleading. The man claimed to be a survivor from a nearby village. They were in bad shape. He hoped to trade some medicine with us. We agreed. The man, his hand bony, took the medicine pack we handed him, and for a second, I saw real gratitude in his eyes. But just as Max was about to start the car and leave, it all went sideways. Several people wielding clubs and cleavers suddenly emerged nearby, quickly surrounding our car. My heart sank to the bottom. We fell for it, but what really made my blood run cold was the figure slowly walking out from behind the crowd. He was skin and bones, his face caked with grime, his clothes in tatters, but I still recognized him instantly. Tyson, Carter's brother. My brother-in-law. He was alive after all. Tyson locked eyes with us, his eyes burning with venomous hatred. His gaze first swept over Carter's face, then fixed on me.
Carter, Serena, so I'm still alive, huh? Disappointed?
I looked at Carter beside me. His knuckles were bone white. He swallowed hard, but he stayed silent. Tyson suddenly turned around and yelled at the starving survivors.
My own brother and his wife.
Hoarded God knows how much before all this. My mom and my wife.
The kids all dead because they wouldn't lift a finger.
High energy food, high energy food.
High energy food. They have medicine and food in their car.
They have everything. High energy. Everything. Tyson's words lit a fire in them. They shouted and started pushing and pounding the car harder, trying to find a way in. Thank God, Max's car was built like a tank. Welded iron mesh, reinforced steel plates, special off-road tires. Held them off, for now. But we were completely trapped. Couldn't move an inch. Just then, a murderous glint in Tyson's eyes, he suddenly pulled from his coat a plastic bottle with a rag stuffed in the top. An accomplice beside him pulled out a lighter. He lit the rag. Tyson let out a hoarse laugh, arm raised high, the Molotov cocktail pointed right at our windshield. Leave the car and everything inside, or no one's walking away. Our car is completely surrounded. Tyson holds a makeshift Molotov cocktail high, standing just 10 meters in front of our car. Behind him are 7 or 8 incited survivors with ferocious faces. I clench my fists. My fingernails dig into my palms. It is my decision that leads our family into this dead end. Through the rearview mirror, I see my parents' pale faces and Carter's furrowed brows. I whisper to them, I'm sorry. My voice trembles uncontrollably. My mom's hand reaches from the back seat and gently rests on my shoulder. Carter takes my hand in his. He says it's not my fault, comforting me. We're family. We'll face everything together. Those words steady my almost shattered mind. I force myself to observe. Among the group outside the car, that sallow, gaunt middle-aged man is always cowering in the back. His eyes flicker. I take a deep breath. I roll down the window a crack. I don't beg. Instead, I raise my voice, glancing at the Molotov in his hand. Do you really want to die together? The flame crackles in Tyson's hand, illuminating the twisted smile on his lips. I keep shouting that the country has set up safe zones. Victory is coming soon. Don't you want to live to get there? The crowd shows the first sign of wavering. Someone lowers the raised stone. Tyson obviously doesn't expect everyone to be swayed. The muscles on his face twitch. He tries to regain control. And just as he twists agitatedly, the moment his neck is exposed in the car's dim light, I see on that patch of skin a spreading, bluish-black, web-like network of protruding veins. Tyson tries to continue, inciting those people. Or maybe they'll seize our supplies first. My words instantly set everyone off. All eyes snap to Tyson. I could feel Carter's body tense up beside me, and hear my parents gasp in the back seat. I knew I had to strike while the iron was hot. Right away, I pointed out the glaring flaws in Tyson's story. I saw it on the surveillance footage. I watched him get tackled and bitten by zombies. Yet here he stands, not a single scratch on him. That's what makes it so suspicious. Tyson's face twisted in the firelight. He quickly raised his hand as if to cover his neck. At the same time, he quickly defended himself, trying to brush it off with weak excuses like he was just lucky or had a strong will to survive. I didn't let him spin his lies. I pointed at the side of his neck and told them to see for themselves. The crowd grew restless. The guy cowering in the back, that gaunt, sallow-faced man, shakily shuffled forward a few steps and leaned in to look at Tyson's neck. The next second, his face turned as white as a sheet, his legs gave out, and he slumped to the ground. He pointed at my brother-in-law's neck, his lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. His reaction was all the proof we needed. The crowd burst apart, the tight circle instantly expanding outward. Every face showed sheer terror and disbelief. Busted, Tyson stopped hiding his neck. Instead, in a bizarre posture, he slowly twisted his neck. Bones cracked loudly. His body began to bloat unnaturally, as if inflated. The dark greenish-black lines under his skin suddenly glowed and writhed. It's not like a regular zombie's decay. My husband muttered, his voice filled with confusion and horror. Then, the voice of Max, who had been calmly observing, came from the driver's seat. He quickly assessed. He's not fully zombified. Instead, it's a rare mutation from the bite. Tyson now is neither human nor a zombie. The crowd screams and scatters, and Tyson, fully transformed, pounces first on the nearest poor soul. Screams ring in everyone's ears. Max reacts instantly. He wrenches the steering wheel. The off-road vehicle roars, slamming hard into Tyson. Amazingly, the expected crunch of metal on bone doesn't come. Instead, the sturdy front end gets a visible dent, and Tyson just staggers back a few steps, shakes his head, and regains his footing. Worse, he's zeroed in on me and Carter. He's coming for our side. Under his blows and prying, the window's iron mesh begins to emit a teeth-grinding sound. The joints start to warp. Max's urgent voice comes from the driver's seat, shouting for us to aim for his head. I grab the compound bow and knock an arrow, but my hand's shaking like crazy. Got to hit the head, but Tyson seems to have learned. He's not exposing his weak spot anymore. Instead, he hugs the vehicle, using the frame as cover. Carter's forehead veins bulge. He's struggling to hold back the collapsing mesh. Just then, Tyson suddenly stops attacking the window and lunges toward the back of the vehicle. He's after the trunk lock. He wants to open the trunk or blow the fuel tank. That's where most of our supplies are, and the spare fuel. We've got to stop him. Max sees it in the rearview mirror. He brakes immediately, but Tyson is too fast, and his strength is insane. With one palm strike, the reinforced trunk lock is smashed open. I take aim at his bent back and head from the window, but the angle sucks, and the truck's shaking too much. Another loud bang. The trunk lock is completely destroyed. The lid pops open a crack. Tyson grins wickedly and reaches to lift the hatch. Just then, the middle-aged man who had been hiding in the ditch picked up a stone from the ground, roared, and smashed it into the back of Tyson's head, and as the stone hit Tyson squarely, he staggered, froze for a moment, and whipped around, with a vicious glare instantly locking onto the terrified middle-aged man, roaring in fury and temporarily stopping his attack on the trunk to turn and lunge at the man, while his brief pause and distraction gave us a chance, as Max and Carter seized that fleeting window and pushed open the car doors simultaneously.
Honey, get ready to shoot him from the front.
Carter yelled at me. Then he and Max, who was clutching a military bayonet, flanked him on both sides, forming a pincer attack. I had already bitten my lips until they turned white. I raised my hand, aiming the blade at Tyson's twisted, insane face, as Tyson noticed Max and Carter flanking him and felt me aiming at him. But before the encirclement closed in, at an even greater speed, he charged at the passenger window where I was, slamming into it hard, and the iron mesh on the window, under the repeated blows and this full-force crash, let out a strained, piercing screech of braking. As his target was always me, Tyson kept slamming into the car window. The last strands of wire holding the window finally snapped. Tyson straightened up, but he didn't attack right away. Instead, he took slow steps toward me. Carter shoved me back hard. He stepped forward. He put himself fully in front of me. His back was ramrod straight. He gripped a short iron rod he'd pulled from under the seat. His knuckles were white. From Tyson's throat came a sound like a sneer. He didn't even glance at Carter. That dark, twisted finger reached straight over my husband's shoulder and pointed right at my face. That finger was just about to touch me. Suddenly, gunshots and explosions rang out. Tyson froze mid-motion. His pointing finger halted in the air. Then two camo-painted military off-road vehicles drove toward us and stopped firmly at the edge of the chaos. Before they even stopped, several fully armed soldiers leapt out with crisp, clean movements. Tyson was stunned by the sudden turn of events. He froze for a moment. A few precise shots hit non-vital parts of Tyson's mutated limb. He lost his balance, stumbled, and fell to his knees. The soldiers worked in perfect sync. Several of them lunged forward. Using special restraint straps with high-strength alloy buckles, they bound Tyson tightly from head to toe. A man with a captain badge stepped forward and told us the crisis was over. They were National Emergency Response Rescue Squad 7. The captain told us the country had developed a zombie serum. They've been rushing supplies in the last few days and gradually launching rescue operations. We looked at Tyson after he was injected with a strong sedative. The captain said they suspected Tyson was a zombie variant of high research value. They needed to take him back for study. Once the rescue team confirmed our family had no infections or injuries, they gave us each a zombie vaccine. Tyson was still twitching, out cold, and they carefully lifted him onto the specialized transport vehicle. I stared in that direction, feelings mixed. My husband's hand covered mine. His gaze didn't even linger on the transport vehicle. We politely turned down the rescue team's offer to go to the centralized shelter, so we decided to head back home. The road home looked nothing like when we fled. On the damaged road, we often saw rescue vehicles passing by. Occasionally, we heard helicopter engines overhead, a sign of supply drops or personnel transfers. Passing by a temporary gathering point, we saw faces tired but full of hope. From our already limited supplies, Mom quietly took out a few bottles of water and some packs of crackers. I rolled down the window and handed them out. Gratitude instantly welled up in their eyes. 2 weeks later, the country finally announced that the zombie threat was completely gone from our borders. The last source of infection had been extinguished early that morning. Many people opened their windows and stepped onto their balconies. After a moment of silence, a wave of pent-up cries and laughter erupted. Our family of 4, supporting each other, walked out of that prison-like apartment building once again. Max was waving at us in the distance. Our 2 families smiled at each other through the crowd. Clearing rubble, fixing infrastructure, restarting production. The radio started calling for able-bodied people to help rebuild. Without much hesitation, we all signed up. My dad picked up his old trade as an electrician. My mom helped distribute supplies at the temporary medical station. Carter and I joined the community cleanup crew. A new life was about to start, and we were finally not running to survive, but for the future, building our home step by step.